Chelsea take on Tottenham. Kweku, the last time we sat here, you were very dissatisfied with Enzo Maresca. Our producer Tom is a massive Tottenham fan who's very dissatisfied with Ange Postecoglou. Who's got the right to be more dissatisfied this season? They're 15th, you're 4th. I feel like you're maybe a bit spoiled.
Come on, man. Like, it's Spurs. Like, they're the bottom
Thank
half.
you.
They're the bottom half of the table. Yeah, from a Chelsea perspective, yeah, I've been underwhelmed. And maybe you can call me spoiled, because if you asked me at the beginning of the season, would you take finishing in the top four? I'd say yes. Wasn't expecting it. But based on the talent of our squad, based on what I've seen so far, and based on the rest of the league, this is a league where Nottingham Forest are third. Chelsea should finish in the top four as an absolute minimum. So yeah, I am disappointed. And if he doesn't finish in the top four or top five, if that gets you Champions League football, then I don't think Maresca should stay in the job. He will. He's on a long-term contract. They seem to be pretty happy with him in the dugout. But I've just not been impressed with what I've seen on the pitch. And some of the noise coming out of the team, or some of the noise that he makes in press conferences, that it's rubbing up the wrong way. But football's a results-based business. If Chelsea end up finishing fourth, then you got to just shake his hand and say, good job for your first season as a Premier League manager. But in terms of what I've seen in recent weeks, ever since really Chelsea beat Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in that incredible game, which again Chelsea probably should have won by more goals, but ended up winning it 4-3. Ever since that game of December the 6th, Chelsea have been in terrible form. And there's a multitude of factors for that. I never want to blame injuries. But when you've got such a talented squad, and when you've got such a poor top of the league, you should be qualified for the top four if you're a serious team.
It's been a bit of a season of two halves, hasn't it? The first half of the season was unbelievable. I mean, I was even saying that they could genuinely go on to win the title because of how weird the league has been. And I think on the pitch there, I was really impressed with what I saw, because I thought the chaos of going into a Chelsea after having spent that much money on that many players, I was amazed at how well he got the whole team to settle down, basically picked a 16 and got them playing really good football. Obviously, the second half of the season has been nowhere near good enough. But if Chelsea can finish fourth and win the Europa Conference League, then that's surely a hugely successful first season for Maresca. You've got a trophy and you're in the Champions League.
The Conference League is not a trophy. Please don't insult me like that, brother. I can't.
It's a European League Cup, and look how much Newcastle fans love that.
I know, but like, do you know what it is for me? And we've had conversations on air and off air about this. I'm a trophies guy. So when Chelsea went out the FA Cup against Brighton, I said, wake me up in May. The season's done. The top four, qualify for the top four, the race of finishing the Champions League, which you're inevitably not going to win, is a fallacy. It's not tangible. You can't lift that up at the end of the season and say, oh my God, we finished the top four. Financially, yeah, it does good things for the pockets of billionaires. It doesn't do anything for me as a football fan. Yes, I get the Tuesday and Wednesday nights back and we play against better opposition. But unless we're in position to win that competition, we're just runners and riders. I care about silverware. When we went out of the League Cup against Newcastle, it bothered me. When we went out of the FA Cup against Brighton, it bothered me. I don't care about the Conference League. It's almost insulting to Chelsea in that competition. That competition was formed for not teams like Chelsea who spent £1.6 billion on their squad, for teams that, like West Ham, who go and celebrate and parade that trophy around Stratford. It's for those teams, no disrespect. So for Chelsea to count the Conference League as a trophy, I don't. Top four is an absolute minimum. If he does that, I'll be satisfied, but I won't be happy, because next year, I'm being honest with you, Chelsea, based on how competitive the league will be, based on the fact that Man City are going through a rebuild, based on the fact that Liverpool could lose two of their stars, based on the fact that we don't know what Arsenal are going to do, Chelsea should be in the title race. That's what I expect. I expect excellence, and I haven't seen excellence.
But so, a quick question on your Conference League comments. If you went out in the Conference League next round, you'd be fuming, no?
It would be so embarrassing.
Yeah, so then you do care about winning it then?
I care about being embarrassed, yeah, but I honestly, the Conference League it's almost insulting, man. When Man United won the FA Cup and meant that Chelsea dropped down into Conference League, the Europa League, as a Chelsea fan, is a competition that when we're in it, I'm like, okay, cool. It's the Europa League. There's a couple cool away days, and when you win it, you get back into the Champions League. Every time we've been in the Europa League, we've won it. When we're in the Conference League, as a minimum, I expect us to win it. I think over the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, when Man United or Arsenal have been in the Europa League and not won it, I think that's embarrassing. I think when you're in that competition, when you're a team that spends that much money, when you're not in the Champions League, either Europa League or Conference League, if you don't win it, it's embarrassing. So that's a minimum. I don't count that. Top four's the goal this season, but again, that's not a trophy. My season was done when we went out the FA Cup against Brighton. Wake me up in May.
Depressed football fans. Unbelievable. Considering where Chelsea were before Enzo came in, the racket. Go on.
We finished 5th last season. We finished 5th, and we were.
Yeah, but you were not good. You were not good last season.
I don't understand. We finished sixth actually last season. Spurs finished fifth. We were not good last season, and we viewed that as the Chelsea fan as a terrible, terrible season. If Enzo Maresca, if fifth gets you Champions League football, if Enzo Maresca can't do that, do only match what Poch did last year, what are we doing here? Poch is currently sat in CAFs in North London waiting for a job in the Premier League. He lost his job because Chelsea didn't finish in the Champions League, as well as other reasons. That's an absolute minimum for Enzo Maresca. We are Chelsea Football Club. We won the Champions League 4 years ago. What are we talking about qualifying for the Champions League as an achievement?
Let's talk about a football club that might appreciate us talking about them. Tottenham.
Proper fans.
Yeah. Ange Postecoglou obviously under loads of pressure.
Yeah.
Do you think he survives until the end of the season? Because obviously there was this Mauricio Pochettino picture going around where he's in a cafe, and you just debunked this myth that I had in my mind that was months ago, but apparently it was 3 weeks ago. But he's got a job, and he's chilling elsewhere doing other things, so he doesn't really need to come back to Tottenham. I've always said that things are not as good the second time around, but Postecoglou's in a scenario where it feels like he's walking on a tightrope.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 5 games in the Europa League to win it. He's got Frankfurt next, which is not an easy fixture whatsoever. And I think if they go out there, I think he's going to be in serious trouble. I don't think that he should be. And I've said this all season, and I feel like maybe there's just something about Ange that maybe there's something that just ticks my brain that makes me want to support him no matter what platform I go on. But I feel like when you've had a crisis of injuries that is that big, and when you are clearly trying something, I mean, he came out the other day, and I think actually he's been doing himself a bit of a disservice in press conferences recently. I think he's been too bitey. He's been a bit too vengeful at some of the questions. But he did make a really good point where people are saying he doesn't know what he's doing. But he came into that football club. He's playing exactly the same football that they played last year. And they had a successful season for what was a team who had just lost their best player and their captain. So he does know what he's doing. It's not working this season for whatever reason. I think injuries. There was a video that went round the other day of Jed Spence on Rio Ferdinand's podcast. He was asked who are the leaders at Spurs, and he laughed. That's a problem, right? There are problems in that dressing room. There are no leaders. There are no good leaders. And the leaders that they do have, your Romeros, your Van de Vens, have been out all season. So it's been a really, really difficult time for Ange, but they are 14th in the league. And if they go out of the Europa League to Frankfurt, this has probably been, the worst season for Spurs in 10 to 15, 20 years? Yeah. Like, this is an abysmal season on paper. But I would give him more time. I think the blueprints are there. If he's allowed to spend a little bit more money and the shackles are released from Daniel Levy, I think that he can be a success.
As a Chelsea fan that never wishes anything positive for Spurs, I've got a couple of excuses. Well, not excuse. I've got one excuse for Postecoglou, and that's the fact that he's probably the first Spurs manager in 15 years to not have not just a world-class player, but a generational player. Over the last 15 years, every Spurs manager has either had Gareth Bale or Harry Kane. And he came into Spurs when they were on their knees in an absolute mess last season, and they finished fifth. And so he deserves so much credit for that, because they were in trouble, and he hasn't had a world-class player to lean on. If Harry Kane still played for Spurs, there's no way they're in the bottom half of the table. Yeah. And also, as a fan of narrative and as a fan of football, when you come in and you say, I always win something in my second season, if you back your chat and do it, I'll have newfound respect. Because to go and do that after you've been ridiculed on every TV and radio station across the country because you've come and you made a bold statement, which we always ask our managers and players to do, if you go and back your chat and win the Europa League, you've got to respect it. So there's a weird part of me that wouldn't hate to see him go and do it, to shut up the haters, because again, we're part of the media, but the noise has been it's been amplified ever since he made that comment, because okay, go and do it. When they went out the FA Cup, oh, look at that, you went out the trophy. When you go out the League Cup, oh my goodness, look at that. But if you go and win the Europa League and qualify for the Champions League after making that statement, I'll have big respect for it.
I think you're really right about that world-class player point. I think that's really true. And I think the problem with Spurs is they've got so many players who are nearly there. They're nearly very good. Like James Maddison is nearly very good. Yeah. Udogie, nearly very good. Van de Ven can't stay fit, but genuinely could be very good. Same with like your Pedro Porros, Vicarios, even Dominic Solanke. They're all close to being good, but there's not one player in there who can knit it all together. There's not one player who can get everyone around and can win the games in the last minutes that you need. Every other club has that. Every other club has that. Yeah, Aston Villa's even have it. I mean, they've even just bought one in now in Marco Asensio. Most teams above him have that, even Manchester United with Bruno Fernandes. And the fact that he doesn't have that, he has these almost close players, and having just lost Harry Kane, I do think that they're not far from being successful. I think, as you say, if they still had Harry Kane, they wouldn't be in this position. And I think they would genuinely be favourites for that Europa League. They don't have that. And I think if he can get that in summer, I do think he might be able to be successful. I just love the guy.
You love the
I
guy,
love the
bro.
guy, and I want him to be successful.
You love him, and he loves titles so much. He's happy to give him
He
to
wants
Bradley.
one, he wants one to Spurs.
The narrative in this room is crazy. Do you think, very quickly, do you think he keeps his job until the end of the season?
Yeah, until the end of the season for sure. But if they go out against Frankfurt and Europa League, I think, and Spurs finish in the bottom half of the table, I know it might not be fair, but football's not a fair game. Spurs can't be finishing in the bottom half of the table below some of these teams that have a way less of a budget than they do. Spurs went and spent 65 million on Dominic Solanke in the summer. Teams can't do that. Bournemouth sold Dominic Solanke and are better than Spurs. So I just think that it might be unfortunate, but might be unfair. But if Spurs don't win the Europa League and they're in the bottom half of the table, then yeah, he will lose his job in the summer.
I'll see you on Seven Sisters Road in May. At the end of May, I'll be there when Big Ange is parading his Europa League trophy, and he'll become what, the most successful Spurs manager in the since 2008.
I'd love it for him. I would actually love it for him. But if it doesn't happen, he will lose his job because he said that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say that and not back it
Gotta
and
back
keep
your
saying
chat.
it. Yeah. Fairs, bro. Like, fairs, but risky play. All right, time for some score predictions then. Kweku, what do you think's happening in this one?
Oh, man. The thing is, Chelsea are not great, but Spurs are even worse. And lads, it's Tottenham. Chelsea win this game 3-1.
It could literally be anything.
Yeah.
I'm sick of trying to do these predictions when a game could be any score. I'm going to go 2-2.
I was thinking 2-2 myself, but honestly, with no actual... I can't add any context to it. I just feel like it might be 2-2. So I'll also go 2-2.